Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so if you've been following the news lately, you know that January 2026 was, well, chaotic. Honestly, it was a lot. Today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're taking over 100 disparate global events, literally a mountain of news, and distilling them down to figure out exactly how the world just shifted.
I mean, how do you actually make sense of a single month that completely reshaped global power, the climate, and the economy, all at the same time? It feels totally impossible, right? But history doesn't happen in a vacuum. And when we start connecting the dots, the big picture really starts to emerge.
To do that, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with shifting global power dynamics. Then we'll look at India's economic and tech boom. Third, we'll cover climate, ecology, and energy. And finally, law, society, and demographics. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Shifting Global Power Dynamics, a World in Transition. Right off the bat, we saw the U.S. announce its withdrawal from 66 different international organizations. 66. This completely alters the landscape for multilateral cooperation. Alongside this, U.S. military strikes around Caracas have sparked intense global debate over national sovereignty and the UN Charter. Observers are actually calling this reassertion of regional dominance a Dawn Row doctrine in Latin America. And, as you can imagine, this is forcing other nations to rapidly adapt. Which brings us to a really fascinating concept that's been making the rounds, neo-royalism. It essentially describes this growing global political trend marked by the rise of highly personalized leadership. It's all about the concentration of power in single leaders. And what this does is directly weaken institutionalized, rule-based international decision-making. We're steadily watching the erosion of the traditional multilateral order that we've known for decades.
So you might be wondering, how is the rest of the world reacting to this neo-royalism and these rigid political blocks? Well, middle powers are carving out their own space. Canada's Prime Minister proposed the Third Path, which is a framework advocating for flexible, value-based multilateralism. At the exact same time, we're seeing India push to lead what's being termed a third global strategic pole. Partnering up with the European Union and nations like Germany, this is an organized strategic effort to promote autonomy and rule-based global governance. It's basically an alternative to that simple US versus China binary.
Moving on to Section 2. India's economic and tech boom, bucking the global trend. 7.4%. That is India's projected real GDP growth for FY26. This totally reaffirms its position as the fastest-growing major economy in the world. And it's being driven by a massive surge in private consumption, actually making up the highest share of GDP since 2012. Plus, we saw a staggering 73% jump in foreign direct investment inflows, hitting $47 billion amid all these global supply chain shifts.
And all of that macroeconomic heat, it's trickling straight down into innovation. Right as the Startup India initiative celebrates its 10-year anniversary, India is now the world's third largest startup ecosystem. We're talking over 120 unicorns, collectively valued at more than $350 billion.
But here's what's really interesting about this boom. It isn't just massive, it's incredibly decentralized and inclusive. Get this. 45% of recognized startups have at least one woman founder or director, and half of them, 50%, are based in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. So this isn't just a big city phenomenon. It's a nationwide transformation of human capital, expanding way beyond the usual major metropolitan hubs. And that transformation is being supported by some very serious hard tech. January saw the launch of Param Shakti, a 3.1 petaflop supercomputer at IIT Madras. This was built entirely using indigenous CDAC Rudra servers. It's a massive technological leap that is going to rapidly accelerate advanced research in complex areas like climate modeling, aerospace, and even drug discovery. India is literally building the infrastructure to solve complex problems at an unprecedented scale. Section 3. Climate, ecology, and energy, the stark realities of our planet. Let's bring things back to the physical world, starting with a critical process that is altering our planet right now. It's called Atlantification. Basically, the Arctic is warming at more than twice the global average. And this phenomenon isn't just melting ice. It's fundamentally altering ecosystems and global weather patterns. Crucially, it's also reshaping geopolitics. By opening up new routes, like the Northern Sea Route, it is seriously increasing strategic shipping competition in an area that used to be completely locked in ice.
So how are we actually funding our response to all this? Well, the United Nations Environment Program puts global finance directed toward nature-negative investments, meaning money spent in ways that directly harm our ecosystems, at a staggering $7.3 trillion annually.
7.3 trillion.
Now contrast that immediately with $220 billion. That is the alarmingly small amount currently directed toward nature-positive investments.
When you hear them side by side, it's a shocking, nearly 30 times disparity. Harmful financial flows absolutely dwarf the capital aimed at nature-based solutions. It really underscores this urgent, desperate need to redirect both public and private capital if we have any hope of meeting our global climate goals.
To bring this climate issue home to India, the scientific studies are flashing red right now. Over half of India's major river deltas, including global hotspots like the Ganga-Brahmaputra, are literally sinking. This subsidence is being driven by excessive groundwater extraction, along with disrupted natural sediment supplies from dams. It's a stark, scary reality that threatens densely populated and economically vital coastal regions. It makes environmental regulation not just a policy choice, but a matter of sheer survival.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Law, Society, and Demographics, the Human Element and the Ticking Clock.
On the ground, environmental governance is shifting fast. Starting in April, the new solid waste management rules will enforce a strict transition to a circular economy. It mandates four-stream source segregation, places direct responsibilities squarely on bulk waste generators, restricts landfilling to promote refuse-derived fuel, and it ties this whole shebang together with digital tracking and financial penalties for noncompliance. It's a really comprehensive overhaul. Over in the legal world, a major constitutional debate just emerged. The Supreme Court delivered a split verdict on Section 17A of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Now, Justice Narasimha upheld the law, emphasizing the need for prior government approval before investigating public servants. However, Justice Nagaratna struck it down, arguing it violated Article 14 by creating an unreasonable classification. It's a very delicate, unresolved balance right now between protecting public officials and ensuring absolute accountability. In all of these trends, the economy, the climate, the law, they all build into the most fundamental shift of all, demographics. Right inside India, we're seeing an intense demographic divergence. On one hand, aging states like Kerala and Tamil Nadu are facing shrinking working-age populations, which leads to rising fiscal stress and heavy pension burdens. But then on the other hand, youthful states like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh still hold a massive working-age population. They literally carry the keys to the nation's future productivity. So what does this all mean? India is currently at a major inflection point, with a median age of just 28. Will this narrow window be our demographic dividend, powering a rise as a new global strategic pole? Or, if investments in education, skilling, and job creation fail to keep pace, will it become a demographic disaster? It is absolutely the question that will define the next decade. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I'll see you in the next explainer.